Today on Skid Row's Racing, we have a very rare occasion. The trusty trooper has an issue that I have to fix right now for security and weather reasons. So the trusty vice grips on the window regulator on the driver's door, those are fine, but the window regulator is stripped out, so I gotta take it apart and figure out how I'm gonna at least get the window closed. Hopefully this video is gonna feature a farm fab fix that will be long term. I did a similar farm fab fix, well, I did a farm fab fix for virtually the same issue on my F250 back in the day. Never had to change it, so hopefully I find something like that on this, because parts for these are hard to find on anything for the body. So here we go. Start out by removing the window crank handle, some vital emergency fluids, the clutch master cylinder on this thing has like a really crappy cap, and AutoZone or Riley's ones both have the same issue where it just kind of like sits on there. So yeah, you gotta add some. Plus the slave cylinder has puked out a whole bunch of stuff and probably needs to be replaced again. I've replaced like 3 of those. That's another story. Comment if you want more info on that. So this is like the second or third one of these we put in, and they always just break. So I got something out of alignment or out of whack or something causing that to create extra stress, but we're not that worried about that today. So I can't really get to this other bolt because I think it's intended to be removed when the window's down. And there's some stuff in the way, but I can kind of see the Phillips head, so I'm going to use an impact and hopefully be able to get it out of there. And then we've got some wood shims to hopefully wedge the window in place up higher, and maybe I'll tape it or something too to make it less sketchy, or find a place to put something so it won't fall and break. And then I should be able to get the regulator out, hopefully. Okay, scratch that, because this doesn't fit through the hole, and then I don't have a number 2 that's big enough to go in there. And you know, some people on the internet may say, oh, it's not a Phillips or whatever. I don't really care, they work, but it doesn't fit anyways. So we're doing some high performance weight reduction. Had to do this on my F-150 or F-250 as well. I drilled it a little high. Okay, drilled the hole a little bit too high, but a wobble extension and my shortest 10mm ought to do it. Bullseye. All right. Found it. Not the most ideal, but it won't come crashing down now. initially forgot to undo those, and then there's 2 bolts that go on the bottom there that hold the bottom of this window guide in place, and that allowed me to get enough room to pop this thing out. So now let's find out what's broken. So this piece was just spinning freely, and now it doesn't want to spin it. Oh, it still spins. Let's see what that connects to and what's going on. Like that little piece crumbled. Probably not a huge loss there. Okay, what I can see going on is can't really see it on the camera, but there's a sprocket that connects to here, and it's not moving. So to get inside of there, well, we can make this simpler. Looks like part of why this wore out and doesn't want to work is because that's jammed down. And I can see, which you probably can't see on the picture or on the camera, this right here, you can see where one of the teeth of one of the sprockets starts. And then here's this thing spinning independently. So we have something stripped out. So maybe because this whole casing is kind of riveted together, I might first just see if I can gently use a punch and drive that out of there and see what I'm working with. But ultimately I'm thinking I can weld that together and lube this really proper like I should have in the first place. I want to be aware of any kind of sprung tension on here that might be holding, because we have this spring thing here, and if I release that, that could go kapow, whichever way it's going to go. Let's see. I think it would go that way. Yeah. So I don't want to guillotine myself with that, but we do want the window to work. Okay, so off camera I diffuse this. It's not too bad. This thing just kind of goes here. Just used some Miami vice grips and just got that off. So now I don't have to worry about having this thing blow up in my face. Let's continue dissecting. So the more I'm looking at this, I think what I'm going to do, these aren't literally rivets like I just stated, it's like this piece in itself becomes a rivet. So I think it doesn't want to move, so I think I'm just going to very carefully just enlarge these to where it wants to come off, just like you would removing a rivet or an old rib nut, and then this thing will be off. Plan of attack to get it back on, use the old squirt gun. So while it probably would make more sense to drill from the other side on these ones, I'm just going to go through this way so I kind of have practice, so when I do the ones that are around that little elliptical looking gear thing, then I'll be more confident that I won't destroy it. Looks like that worked. All right, so I just drilled to where it barely touched it. So it looks like this is going to work here. We found some carnage. Look at that. Doinked. Let's look at that more in a second. Let's focus on this, because I got to get those other pieces of roundy bit like that out of there. Look at that. Oh, now it moves freely. All right, we're getting somewhere now. Let's see. We're exploring this together with the outdated digital camera here. So why won't this? Oh, look at that. It's almost like some kind of clutchy system that broke. So in my F-250, there was it had electric windows, but there was like 3 plastic balls that broke, and I just took the thing apart, which I actually had to drill dimpled spots in the door panel, like the actual steel of the door behind the decorative panel, and then remove the window regulator, and then put like 3 random nuts I found in there, and then it never had another problem. So what this is looking like is I should be able to make all of this one. You can even see like a knurled little thing there. Oh, look at that. It's coming apart more. We can see it better. That'll be better for welding it. I just got to remember that that goes on there, I guess. Oh, there's a broken piece. It's like a little knurled piece of metal that like fit together, and it's almost like it like expanded itself and broke. So I think we're in luck. I think we can fix this. Start by just clamping it together a little bit. It's already locked in. Oh, little squirt gun action. We're gonna be trooping again. One slight thing to address here, probably part of why this broke. This is like cast aluminum. This is not, and this is not. So I know that this piece is steel, and I know that this piece is steel. I can see it all the way through. So I'm thinking we got this kind of gripped up by just bending it, like whatever. That's not where the strength resides anymore. So we're gonna weld this to here. So these two will be one. And then if I get really, really worried about it, then maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll close the gap there. But quite frankly, I don't think it matters. But when I get real fancy too, if you look back here, this right here is this, and this, like they move independent. So that might be a better job for the TIG welder, but this stuff's probably kind of dirty and I don't really necessarily want to do that. So another part of this is that this little springle dingle creates some resistance, which I'm just learning how this works as we're going. But I would imagine that this little springle dingle creates some resistance so the window just doesn't want to go up and down. There's probably too much, which is probably a lot of why it broke. Well, the other part broke, that is. So I'm looking at where these two groovy bits were. Obviously that was broken in there, but this is how this was supposed to be. So I'm gonna take note, mental note of that, and I'll just try to center that piece up. And then worst case scenario, I need to source this thing online anyway, but let's try to save it. So you can see why I didn't TIG it. There's not like a lot of space to get anywhere. Again, hopefully this works. That little glob there, maybe I shouldn't have done it. I'm just gonna clean that up real quick though. Okay, so welding that part, not really worth it. By the time I kind of ground everything down, there's not much going on. This isn't very precise because it just sits in that worn out hole anyway. So we're gonna put this thing back in. I believe this sleeve, it kind of fell out. I think it goes there. Yeah, sure looks like it. So I'm gonna put that sleeve around this first. Sure, I guess that's right. I'm gonna look at those two little prongs. Like we got our two little marks where the prongs were, because again, this piece that broke off was actually where my weld was. Oh, let's get a better look at the weld. It kind of sucks, but I didn't have a lot to work with. So definitely a job for the MIG, not the TIG. Okay, get that in there pretty firm. It's a little crooked. I think I need to push the spring in I think I pulled the spring out. Looks like it has some tension to be sprung in there. So I'm just gonna try to work the bottom down as much as I can. And then, pardon my bad camera work, I'm only one man, and YouTube is not my job. If it was, this would be fancier looking. Yeah, so rather than fight it, we just coiled that sucker up, pushed her on down there. Look at that. And now I can place this in there, and it looks like it's going to sit in flat. And oh, lost the little sleeve. That will probably be handy, helpful somewhat. Make sure it grabs both parts of that resistance spring, I'm guessing is what it is. You can comment if you know more about this than me, because I'm just winging this. Alright, we have a thingy with resistance. Let's actually just test our method here. So, shouldn't take a lot, but yeah, just some grabbing it with some needle nose slides that stuff in there. After this is all together, I might actually spray some lube in that too, just to make it work a little better. So see what we can do there. But yeah, we got a springle dingle. So this is gonna go back into here. This worn out, terrible spot. Center that as well as I can. Not a very precise thing, as you can see. And let's get the crustiest, most worn out Miami vice grips that I've got here. So I did screw up. This won't wind because that's like too blunt, but it looks like I've hyperextended this past, and I'm gonna try to move it over so I can start it there where it's not so blunt. I am gonna have to grind some welds on the back down, but I might have to cut the whole thing off. So let's just see what happens real quick. All right. Okay, we have some action here. So let's grind that little thing down and that little thing down. So we're about back in business. Business enough. Let's just lube this up. I don't know. Grind this stuff, it was laying around, and should be thicker and better than WD-40. Get that resistance spring real good in there. See if it feels any better. Still didn't feel great, but it definitely works. Probably better than it's ever been right there, honestly. Also, WD-40 would just like wash away pretty quick, as the critics would state. But, you know, not to hate on WD-40, it works great for certain things. Get in there too. Really get in there. Okay. Sorry for the bad camera angle, but we have ourselves a usable window regulator again, and we can put this thing together and worry about the ugly door panel another day. But first, let's put this spring back on. So it should go in. I can see a mark on here because this is probably like asymmetrical, so you can use it on either side or something. I don't know, but I see the mark where it was, so I'm pretty confident that this goes here. Get my digits out of the way. Get another grip on there. Gloves are a good idea because I already saw the band-aids and cuts on my hands. Stuff like that happens when you don't use them. Get my hammer out. So that thing's in. That makes sense too, because, well, this thing's gonna sit, you know, I don't remember how the hell this thing sits in there, but it's gonna sit in there. Let me tell you. Oh, like this. So it makes sense that that spring does this, because that should hold the window up, because it's doing yoing. So when I pulled this spring down, what that does is want to force this up. So because you can see, yeah, spring stiff. So I'll just lubricate everything real good. I'm going to lubricate the part that rolls in here more than anything. Probably a little on the other parts too, just for S and G's, as my wife would say. And back here we got another one of them. If you're not very good with these, don't start your hardware with them. I still make mistakes, but I'm willing to take care of it if I do. I eyeball line that pretty well. Get a little better of a snug with the old hand ratchet, because it's a more critical part. Torque to spec. Guess I could have threaded that in more with the Dugga machine. Torque to spec. All right. Ain't great. That sure works. So I don't need to film putting the door panel back on. I'm gonna probably do something nicer to it at some point, because as you saw, it's falling apart, and obviously this stuff sucks.